welcome to MS Warrior Podcast. It's good to see you finally. We've had a bit of trouble with the connection, but we got there in the end.
We got there eventually. That's great. I'm glad to
Yeah.
be there, Lee. Glad to be
Yeah.
here.
So, tell me about your journey, if you will.
Well, my journey really started way back in the olden days of 1980s when I was
Yeah, I
diagnosed.
was born. That was the year I was born.
Oh,
So,
thank you very much. That makes me feel really old now, Lee.
yeah. So,
But I was diagnosed at mid 80s. This was the time before Tim Berners-Lee invented the internet.
yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, when I
Of
went
course.
along and had all the various tests,
Yeah.
you were given a leaflet and told, just go on and go on with your life.
Right.
And that's basically what we did. And for sort of 35 years, just got on. And I
Right.
really had minor relapses
Right.
during that period of sort of a bit of numbness and tingling,
Yeah.
a little bit of optical neuritis. But it was really up into sort of mid 40s for me
Mm.
that I really didn't have any major issues with MS.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
it started to kick in then. When I
So
turned,
when did it really start to affect you?
I would say when I turned about 50,
Right.
it started to affect my fatigue
Mm.
and my walking and mobility started to
Yeah.
deteriorate.
Yeah.
I started using a walking stick and then it
Yeah.
just, as you will probably know, it then gradually escalates from walking stick
Right.
to a crutch to a walker to a wheelchair.
So
Um,
were you in front of other people? I mean, you don't have to say this if you don't want to, but it's
no,
just
no,
how
I'm
you.
fine.
Yeah. Okay. It's just how you were in front of others. So did you keep it quiet? Or
Yeah, I mean, during my career, now I worked in sort of IT software sales
yeah.
for 30 years, and it was quite a stressful job, and there was a lot of kind of management going on within that.
Yeah.
But you would never have known if you looked at me during that period, you would never have known there was anything wrong with me, apart
Yeah.
from the obvious, but nothing to do with MS.
Yeah.
Um, and then, as I say, when I turned 50, then it started to become
Yeah.
visibly apparent that I had something wrong with me. But
That's
I told,
to the point where you couldn't hide it anymore.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then I basically effectively retired and became self-employed.
Mm.
And that was good for me because it meant I was in control of my diary for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I could do what meetings I went to and when I went to them and control that side of it.
Yeah.
That really didn't last too long, and I officially sort of retired when
Yeah.
I was probably about 55. Now,
Okay.
during that period, I consider myself actually reasonably fortunate with the MS because I managed to live that life. And I've got two lovely
Mm.
daughters. They're now in their 20s,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it did take a toll on my marriage. So my marriage
Mm.
kind of. When I turned 15, it became
Yeah.
apparent, just we couldn't do it. Just everything just sort of tended to
Yeah.
go down.
It must be
At that point,
difficult. Yeah. Difficult for both sides. So both
yeah,
your side and the other person.
we look at it from our point of view, then we've got the MS, we need to deal with it. But it
Yeah.
affects everyone round about you, your family and your kids and everything else. And that's a very tough
Mm.
thing to get through. Unfortunately, our marriage didn't survive that. So about
Right.
when I turned 55, I'm now 60.
Yeah.
But when I turned 55, I then separated and moved out from the family home.
Right.
But that really then allowed me to take control of my life a little bit more in that way
Yeah.
because I then started to find out about diet and looking at my diet and trying to
Yeah.
manage my MS.
Right.
And
So what kind of diet did you switch to?
I tried all sorts of things. It was really
Yeah.
trial and error. But I
Mm.
went on. I had to try the Walls diet, and
Right.
that worked really well for me. So I've kind of now I've cut out gluten. I've cut out dairy as much as I
Yeah.
possibly can.
Yeah. I did that.
That definitely helped.
Yeah.
And then from there, really, it's just a case of sorting my life out.
Right.
I mean, I just moved into a flat temporarily while we got the
Yeah.
divorce.
Yeah.
The divorce took about 4 years to go through. It was quite acrimonious at the
Right.
end of the day. Um, but what that allowed me to do was, once I'd got the divorce sorted out, I've managed to get myself bought a new flat. I got it adapted
Yeah.
for my needs at the time.
Hmm.
And then once I was in the flat, literally within 3 months, I
Yeah.
found myself on a plane over to Moscow for HSCT.
Right.
So that has really made a huge difference
So
for me.
you were 55 when you did that. What year
I
is that?
was I was 60 when I went to Moscow. That was just
Right.
last year.
Okay.
uh,
Right.
Last year, in the
Yeah.
middle of a pandemic. When you do something, do it right, you
No,
know.
nobody could have expected that. Nobody. So
No, for me it was a kind of bonus in a certain way, because it meant that a slot became available in
yeah.
Russia, because the borders were closed to
Yeah.
different foreigners that were still open to the UK.
Yeah.
So that allowed me then to go to Moscow. But I think when I left my wife, I got a friend of a friend who had MS, Lynn, and she just was a almost a kind of inspiration for me, because she got control of it. She was very
Yeah.
educated on it, and it was her that put me onto the Walls diet, and then gradually, then when she
Yeah.
found out about the HSCT,
Mm.
then I started to investigate it and looked at doing that
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
So you've had HSCT now. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, do you know what your EDSS was before HSCT?
I was 6.5.
Right. Same as me.
I would say I'm probably still 6.5.
Yeah.
But my mobility, and it's a combination of, you learn things as you go along.
Right.
And again, through Lynn, I heard about the MS gym,
Yeah.
and that has just been a revelation for me. And I would
The
say
MS Gym. Yeah.
the MS gym, yes, and
Right.
it's
Right.
an American chap, and he's called Trevor
Yeah.
Wicken, and he's just fantastic. He's
Yeah.
a bit bonkers, he's American, he's very much, guys, let's get stuck into this,
Yeah.
and that sort of idea, which is fine.
Yeah.
Um, but he knows his stuff,
Yeah.
and he talks about,
No, I
without
mean,
getting too
you're
far,
not the first person to mention MS Gym, so it's something I'll definitely be looking into.
I think if you've got MS, regardless whether you've had HSCT or not,
Yeah.
it's definitely something you can look into. Now, he
Mm.
does some free videos on YouTube, so you can
Yeah.
just look him up on YouTube. But I decided to join his class, and what we do there is we just do a video every day, and you
Yeah.
just do as much as that as you can, and that's definitely helped. So I've gone from an EDSS of 6.5. I am now walking unaided.
Okay.
It's very wobbly and a wee bit kind of,
Yeah.
so be careful what you're doing.
So
But I sort of,
you couldn't walk unaided before, so you
no,
have to have, yeah.
yeah. So I normally use a 4-wheel buggy for going round the house,
Right.
and that
Yeah.
that's that again. That just stops you from having
Yeah.
many falls.
Yeah.
And
Is that
but
still the case now after HSCT and MS Gym? Is it still the
yes,
case? Yeah.
yeah. I still use that for security, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at it as it's going to be a long haul.
Mm. Of course it
But
is.
it gives me something to do every day, and it's a
Hmm.
positive thing.
Yeah.
And you can say, we're going to work on my mobility as
Yeah.
best you can,
Yeah.
and that is really fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. So
but you're
yeah.
off to Moscow later this year, I hear.
What? Sorry.
You're off to Moscow later in the
Yes,
year.
I'm going to Moscow on October 13th. So
Oh,
it's not
fantastic!
far away now. So
No, not at all. We'll
yeah,
fly in.
it feels like I've been waiting forever. But
Yes.
uh, how was your situation with the NHS and getting funding? Well, not funding, but getting some sort of interest in
Yes.
the NHS.
Well, my all along the way, I've really not wanted to. I've not. I tried some disease modifying drugs,
Yeah,
and they didn't work for me. I was only on them for maybe 6 months at a time.
Right.
and the various side effects just didn't agree with me, and I came off them.
Is
So I
that
was
injectables? Is that injectables or
I
tablets?
was on the injectable, was on the
Mm.
Plegridy for the injectables, and I tried Tecfidera,
Right.
um, which makes you blush quite a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's various side effects of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't something that kind of agreed with me as
Hmm.
such, and it showed that there was no benefit to it
Yeah.
from a relapsing perspective.
Yeah.
At that point, again, I was probably second to progressive MS.
Yeah.
So, and it was literally just go on with
Yeah.
it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
you can do, just manage the symptoms as best you can.
Yeah. I think we're all in that boat.
Yeah,
Those of us that are secondary progress. I think those of us that are secondary are actually far outweighing the number of people that are relapsing because relapsing goes into secondary quite quickly.
yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
And they're trying to get a definitive
Yeah.
diagnosis, and I
Mm.
think when I was diagnosed secondary progressive,
Yeah.
again round about the 50 mark, 50 years old,
Yeah.
it was basically, well, just give us a call if you want to talk to us.
Yeah.
There was no recommendation from my neurologist. But having
Yeah.
said that, when I researched the HSCT, I went back to my neurologist to ask for any assistance if I needed it when I came
Mm.
back. He
Yeah.
was fully supportive, and I do anything I need to do. I'll speak to a local GP, and they've been fantastic.
Mm.
Um, so I need bloods done or any medications or need to talk to anyone, I talk to my GP,
Yeah.
and they get it sorted for me. So the
That's
NHS
good.
for me has been supportive of the HSCT.
So,
If you
so
want to talk about HSCT on the NHS, then that's a
yeah.
completely different
Yeah.
kettle of fish.
So, are you getting support from the NHS now? You've had HSCT or not?
Yes, I'm getting my bloods taken every maybe 2 months or so now, just to
That was
check
through
on
your
all
GP. Is that from your GP or from your neurologist?
through my GP.
GP. Right.
I'm going tomorrow for an MRI scan
Yeah.
over at the local hospital,
Yeah.
and we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah. Hopefully that'll be your. Well, hopefully you'll get some improvement, but hopefully it's stopped where it is. So you've halted the
Well,
progression, and that's the main thing.
yeah, as you well know, Lee, is that the purpose of HSCT is to stop your progression.
Definitely.
That's
Definitely.
considered successful if it stops your progression.
Absolutely.
Dramatic improvement, then you have to count that as a bonus.
Yeah.
As long as you go into it with your eyes open on that one.
Yeah. So that's it's like that's all a lot of people can hope for, if because we didn't get any sort of information or encouragement from the NHS to begin with, so we have to do it ourselves, and
Yes.
just in the hope that we can stop progression at least. So
But I think when you're in a position where you can either raise funds, either personally or through fundraising,
yeah.
not everybody can do that, Lee.
No, well, definitely not the
Um,
pandemic, because I was fundraising. I was really trying hard at it, but then obviously because the pandemic came along, I stopped immediately stopped.
yes.
So that's why I have to sell some stuff. So
Mm.
I don't know how you got the funds together, but it's
It was
like
a combination, for me, it was a combination of personal funds, a bit of
yeah,
fundraising, which I'm very grateful for,
yeah,
reading the pension pot a little bit for us
yeah,
oldies,
yeah,
not open to youngsters yet.
no,
Um, so it was just a combination of things,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I was in the fortunate position that I could do that.
yeah,
If you're mid-20s and you're diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS,
yeah,
and you don't qualify for the very strict NHS criteria,
yeah,
then it's a tough call.
Yeah.
And when I look back and think, I've got a bee in my bonnet really, Lee, about this, what I class as kind of total cost of ownership of having
Yeah.
multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And it affects every of only your personal life, but in terms of society.
Mm.
Because when I was working full time, I was paying the tax pot,
Yeah.
and now I'm taking out the tax pot on living on benefits.
Yeah.
And that just for someone not to sit down and look at the business case of providing HSCT on the NHS,
Yeah.
it just frustrates me that whenever I
Of
talk to
course it
anyone.
does. It frustrates me, and I've not even been for HSCT yet. But I mean, this is why I do this podcast, is just to educate people that the NHS won't give us HSCT yet, so it's up to us to fund it ourselves. But
Yes,
if there's somebody like you just said, newly diagnosed, if they start fundraising now, they've got a better chance of getting there.
yes. It's a kind of difficult thing because in probably 10 or 20 years' time, it may become a recognised sort of route for
I
everyone.
hope so. I
MS,
really hope
and that
so.
probably will be the case.
Yeah.
But people like you and me, we cannot wait 20 years.
No, no. I think
Um,
there's been a few people on the podcast that have said like time is not on our side, so
yes.
we
Well, I
have to
mean,
do something.
the mantra is time is brain. The longer you leave it, the more
Yeah,
damage is done
yeah,
to
yeah,
you. The,
yeah.
the analogy that I tend to use when I'm trying to explain MS to other people, and particularly on when you're taking the medications and the drugs and the DMDs, it's a bit like you're tied to a railway track and there's a train coming down the track at 70 miles an hour. And then you say, we'll take some of these drugs because that will slow the train down to 60 miles an hour. But the train's still coming down that track, it's going to hit you at 60 instead of 70.
It's like I think Alison said last time. There's some sort of results or something done from a survey done in America. And they surveyed a lot of relapsing people, and all of those people on relapsing, remitting, they they saw improvements. Yet the people that secondary didn't. But like Alison said, also that that's good because it stopped the progression at least. So
Yes.
that's why I'm doing this. So we can educate people to get it done as soon as possible. So
I mean, I think this sometimes is like a bit of an echo chamber, Lee, when we get involved with the Facebook groups.
yeah,
And we're preaching to the converted.
yeah,
And the only people that's really going to change this is the politicians.
yeah,
Um, and you can look at it and say, well, who's to benefit from it? And we can blame the big pharmaceutical companies for funding all the big major MS charities out there. And we think, well, who's to
I don't.
benefit from
I personally, I don't blame the pharmaceutical companies. They're just there to make money. It's just
it?
as
Yes,
simple as that. But
yes.
I do blame neurologists. And I do blame doctors that are not. They're not pushing HSCT enough. Yeah. You
Well,
know.
it's a bit like if you take a neurologist
Yeah.
and they are neurologists and also very clever people.
Yeah.
But when you go to Moscow or to Mexico or to London, it's not neurologists that treat you, it's hematologists.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
it,
Yeah. Of course.
hematologists, that it's a blood disorder
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so turkeys don't vote for Christmas, do they?
Yeah. So
So
that's also
from
been
a
mentioned on the
neurologist point
podcast.
of view,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a difficult task. Now, again, to be fair, my neurologist kind of took it on board and supported me going through the process. And again, that will be a gradual thing for that to kind of switch over time, I'm sure.
Well,
But
maybe people need to, even if they go to the neurologist, just they need to ask the question: do I need to be referred to a haematologist to get where I need to go?
Yes. And as you say, getting the message out there is difficult, and particularly over the
Yeah,
last year, 18 months.
yeah,
I mean, I've tried politicians and bits and bobs like that, and
yeah,
speaking to my local MP, but you just get lip service back, I'm afraid.
yeah,
And HSCT was approved in Scotland
yeah.
2 years ago on the
Yeah, I
NHS,
heard that. Yeah.
and nobody has had it yet. And again, that's
Really?
all down to COVID, and we can't do much with COVID at this moment in time.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So, but so
Yes.
nobody at all has had it in Scotland. Yeah.
No. I don't know what I've heard, and it is only a rumour, that people have been referred and gone down south for it,
Yeah.
but they'll be few and far between. And
Yeah.
as you know, the criteria to meet that is very,
Yeah.
very strict.
So it's a little the communication's a little bit muddled up where people don't know whether they need to go down south or they can get it in Scotland or whatever. I've
Well,
had conversations with many people from Scotland,
yes,
and they assume they can get it because Scotland have approved it. They assume they can get it in Scotland.
yes. Now, I think we need to be, again, as clear as we can be, is that HSCT is
Yeah,
also used in other autoimmune disorders and for
yeah,
cancer. So it's available, it's just not available for MS yet. And we always get out with the stick of, well, we're just doing the trials at the minute to find out
mm,
where
definitely.
it's best suited. And they're going to go after the low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
So they're relapsing remitting, young, in your 20s, you're relapsing remitting,
yeah,
that's perfect. You've tried your two disease modifying drugs and failed,
mm,
and in that time, another year has elapsed, and your brain's been further damaged in that year, potentially.
yeah.
Um, but when you're 55 and hobbling about in an old walking stick like myself,
Well, it
it'll
depends which
never
way you
happen.
look at it. It's just, age is just a number, and you're
Yes,
still technically a young man. So I
yes.
know you don't feel like that way, but yeah,
No,
you definitely are. It's not.
yeah, no, it is. I mean, and I must say that I
Yeah,
feel much better now than I did 5 years ago.
yeah,
And I think just the fact of having the HSCT potentially as well, it
mm,
just gives you a bit of hope
yeah,
that you can wake up in the
definitely.
morning and hope that you're not going to have any further exacerbation of your symptoms.
Yeah, you're not going to get any worse. So
Yeah. And before I was definitely a good day, bad day, good day, bad day type of person.
yeah,
And now I can go 4 or 5 good days and then one bad day. So that gap is definitely getting better.
yeah.
Um, so
Well,
I think for most of us, the answer is getting on the right treatment at the right time
yeah, definitely.
to benefit us and to benefit all society. Because as I said,
Yeah, I
they're
think
all
so. I think I spoke to Alison before as well. It's about you get put on a drug that's not as. I mean, you said you're on Tecfidera, yeah. So,
yes,
so yeah, a lot of them are getting put on Copraxone and stuff like that. Some of the lower lower tier drugs. They don't hit as hard. They don't hit the MS as hard as say Ocrevus or something like that.
yes,
So it's I think Alison also mentioned Gavin Giovanni, Giovannoni, whatever. That he's saying that people with MS should be on the hard hitting drugs straight away rather than the lower tier drugs that aren't as powerful. So
yeah. I mean, it's difficult because
actually, he said HSCT should be the
yes,
first
I
goal.
would think so, and I think it will at
Yeah,
some
we'll get
time
there.
in the future.
Yeah,
Um, which is when you think of Scotland, I think the further north you go,
Yeah.
the more prevalent MS is within society.
Mm.
And when you think of Scotland being, a very high percentage of people with MS
Right.
globally, and it's not available here. It's just.
As I said last time that, at the podcast, is that something's got to give way. Something's gonna have to budge because people do need treatment as soon as possible.
Hmm.
Because
Well, yeah, I
otherwise
think
it's
that's
only
great.
going to cost the NHS more anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it doesn't. You look at it from a business perspective, and you say
Yeah,
from the cost of the drugs every year
yeah,
for which could be potentially 30, 40, 50 years for
yeah,
somebody
yeah,
versus one-off HSCT payment
yeah,
of £30,000,
yeah.
and it just doesn't. It does not. It's not.
No, I said that last time. It doesn't add up at all. I think Alison said last time it cost the NHS 30,000, and I was like,
Yes.
just 30,000.
Mm.
I'm putting 45,000 euro down now
Yes.
to go to Moscow,
Yeah.
and that's coming out of my pocket. But
So
of course, not everybody has 45,000 euro in their back pocket. But it's
no.
a case of you just do whatever you can to get wherever you can get the proper
Yes.
treatment from.
Yes.
So
Now, yeah. I mean, I think mental attitudes have got a lot to do with it.
yeah,
I think
definitely,
try and be
absolutely.
as positive as you can,
Mhm.
and make the best of what you've got at
Yeah,
that particular time.
yeah,
Um, and that's where I think the kind of physical, for me, the physical activity helps because it gives you
yeah,
a point to saying, right, I'm going to try and get myself a bit better,
yeah,
whether that be mobility or fatigue or whatever it may be.
yeah,
And that's critical to think you're
yeah.
the best life you can have.
Were you quite an active person before MS? Did you do like running or? Yeah,
I was into my sport, but watching
yeah,
on the TV, Lee, that was
yeah,
about as physical as I got.
yeah,
But I'd say two young kids, and just as a father and a full
yeah,
time
yeah,
job,
yeah,
running about with the kids at the
yeah, yeah,
weekends and
yeah.
things.
So.
Um, so that
No, I think what I'm getting to really by asking that is just saying people people like myself that were quite active before they got MS. It kind of it does more than say the drugs do. So
yes.
by being quite active, it seems to slow it down somewhat more than the drugs actually slow it
Yes.
down.
One of the things I'll go back to the MS Jim is what he really concentrates on, and he educates you as you go along.
Yeah,
Is neuroplasticity, which is being able to. He looks at the brain
yeah,
and he finds new routes for the damage to get around
right,
the damaged myelin sheaths, and
yeah,
it's odd to think that if you exercise your wrist,
yeah,
that affects your right wrist, that affects your left ankle, and you think, well, how does that work? But it's how the brain just sends the signals
yeah.
down
It's all
through the
connected.
body,
Yeah,
and and that just makes really good sense to me because it means that if you've got blockage in your
yeah,
motorway, you've got to reroute another way around that
yeah.
to get to your destination. And your
Hmm.
nerves are just the very same
Hmm.
in that it just finds a new neuroplasticity. And that is one thing that doesn't diminish with age, I think, is
Yeah,
it can still work when you're in your 60s
yeah, yeah,
as well as in your 40s or 30s.
yeah.
And I have definitely seen major improvements
Right. Yeah,
from
it's like I
Fundraising.
say, I'm definitely going to look at that. Probably as soon as we have finished this call, I'll chase up on MSGM straight away.
Mhm. As I say, you can find them online
Yeah,
and just have a look and see what you think. And it's
yeah,
not for everybody. Some people go in and think, oh no, don't like this or whatever it may. But I think no matter what, some form of physical exercise in your day
yeah,
is definitely worthwhile. Just
yeah,
from I take part in an online
Yeah.
exercise class or Zoom class,
Yeah.
again provided by a local charity.
But
And just as a group of 4 or 5 of us that get together every week
yeah.
and just have a chat, and then we do a bit of
Yeah.
exercise in between. And that is good. It's again good for your mental health.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Do you set a time aside every day or every other
Yeah.
day to do the
Yes.
MSGym?
With the MS gym, when you start off, it's about maybe 30 minutes,
Right.
and then you just work through a program,
Yeah.
maybe last about 10 or 12 sessions,
Yeah.
and then you get a reassessment, and then you move on to the next one. I'm now
Okay.
probably up to maybe an hour a day.
Yeah.
And again, some days you do it and feel fine, other days you think,
Yeah.
let's do the minimum today, and that's just the way it goes.
But you can, if you have them days where you just feel a bit off, that you can easily catch up to it
Yes,
if you go back to it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And there's nobody monitors you. It's up to you just to be disciplined to go in and do it.
Yeah.
And it's, as you well know, you reap the rewards of what you put in.
Yeah.
And I think and I can understand why some people just
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
in to the MS
Yeah.
and they feel get MS, and it's a very,
Yeah.
very quick decline in
Mm.
their physical abilities.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely worth checking out. So that's something I'll do straight away.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, when I say when I was about maybe 55, 60 years old,
right.
and this was just a year ago when I was looking at potentially, I was
Yeah.
actually researching care homes.
Oh, yeah.
But I just thought this is declining so
Yeah.
fast
Yeah. You
that I'm
just,
going to be in a care home very
yeah.
soon.
So
Um,
you're just, it's like I say to other people as well that haven't got MS and stuff like that. They say how difficult it is for me and stuff like that. So, well, it's not difficult as such, but I have to preempt everything to do. So, like you just saying, you're preempting care homes and stuff like that.
yes.
So it's just you have to look ahead. You don't look like a year down the line. You look 5 years down the line or something like that.
And,
So
and, and, and you know, that's the thing I thought, particularly with it going to Moscow,
yeah,
was that, well, there's no point in me having a big pension in the bank,
no,
and then I don't, and I'm in a care home.
yeah,
So I might as well spend it on trying to get myself.
yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah,
whole point for me was just to remain independent for as long as I can.
yeah, yeah,
And that, I've got an adapted car.
mm,
It's got hand controls on it now, and
right,
that just it's great because you can get out and about
yeah,
and go where you need to go,
yeah.
which is good.
So how do you find because this is something I have a problem with, especially during the pandemic, is because so I keep going back on myself, but because my mobility isn't as good as it used to be, I find myself there's a lot of anxiety there. So everything I do, I'm anxious. How far have I got to walk? It's just
Mm.
how far have I got to drive and stuff like that because I'm aware of fatigue and stuff like that. I've got to think about that all the time.
Mm.
So
And it's not
just
only
just just having this call, it's
yeah,
like you said to me, "Can we do it earlier?" And to me, that was I love that because it means if I do it later on, I've had many podcasts which is like 8 o'clock at night, and I find myself dropping off more and
tired.
more. So
And it's mentally fatiguing where you're trying to think
yeah,
of questions, or you're trying to sort
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
listen, even just listening to somebody.
yeah,
It's fatiguing because it can drain you an awful
yeah,
lot. And when you go on a car journey, it's not just a case of, well, I'm going to, it's 30 minutes away. It's also
yeah,
30 minutes back
yeah,
after you've done what you've done when you get
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So you need to kind of try and factor that in as well.
yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
and but that's just life for us, and we adapt as we go along.
Mhm.
And I think you need to be a bit stubborn sometimes and say, I'm not going to let this affect me as much as I can,
Yeah.
and just try and keep the terminology is use it or lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've moved into a flat on the ground floor now,
Yeah.
and I think I haven't actually gone up a step in 7 or 8 months,
Yeah.
and that's not good.
Oh, right,
So
yeah. So you purposely finding steps so you can.
well, I will do now. And now that I've
Right.
thought about it, I thought, right, I need to try and get some steps I can practice on.
Yeah.
But I think having come back from law school and gone through the sort of the initial recovery for 5 6 months,
Yeah.
and then started the MS gym, it's just gone really sky high.
Did you have any rehabilitation or anything like that when you got back?
No,
Right.
it was just because of the
So
pandemic,
yeah. Yeah.
and again, when you talk to the NHS, there is no real
Yeah.
physiotherapy going on,
Right.
and that's where the MS gym came in for me.
Yeah.
That was the route to saying, well, I'll do it myself
Yeah.
and just go on and
Yeah. That's something Alison mentioned last time. Is from Ames, Ames.org or AimesCharity.org. They specialize in what happens when you get back from HSCT. So things like physiotherapy and things like that, they do that. So might be worth checking them out. Yeah.
was the name of that way again?
Ames, A I
I know,
M S.
I know Ames is that. So it's Ames that do that as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's I'm in contact with Alison all the time, but
yes.
she's saying that when I go to Moscow, obviously the next funding round is September, but
Right.
I contact them before I go there, and they look into all the funding for your flights and things like that, which I've already bought them, but they will fund that. So they fund that, and then when you get back from HSCT, they fund things like physiotherapy and whatnot. So
All right.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, I had a little bit of a hiccup with them initially because
yeah,
I thought I had put the application in for the funding for my flights,
yeah,
and there must have been some technical hiccup whether I
yeah.
thought I'd done it and they didn't get it.
Right.
So I'd missed a funding round on that. So
Yeah.
I'll just
The
again,
next one's September. So it
make
doesn't
sure
matter
you
when
get,
you went or when you go.
yeah, make sure you get in on time and
Yeah.
just double check because
Oh yeah,
you're
yeah.
so much in
Definitely,
your
definitely.
mind going away to Moscow and packing your bags and what's
Yeah,
going to happen that
yeah,
it's very easy to think you've done something and you haven't done it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. So
That old MS fog we call it.
yeah, that's good advice. Really good advice. Yeah. It's well, thank you for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
I know I've enjoyed it, Lee, and it's been good talking to you. And
Yeah, I think hopefully what you've said in the podcast hopefully is going to help somebody else, and
yes,
maybe hopefully I hope somebody realize that the NHS may or may not always be there. So to do fundraising or whatever you can do yourself to get HSCT as soon as possible.
yes.
So
And I would say that because I'd retired at that point.
yeah,
Your circle of sort of friends and colleagues that you know
yeah,
suddenly diminishes down an awful lot
mm,
because you don't say to your company, can we do some fundraising that way?
yeah,
So I'll just say, the sooner the better.
yeah,
Particularly now that we're coming out of lockdown,
yeah,
and things are getting a lot freer.
yeah,
It's definitely something to look into. And again, there's good websites that
yeah,
will give you ideas for fundraising, which is good.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for your
No
advice
problem.
and
It's been a
uh,
pleasure talking to you. And again, if
yeah.
I can be any further help at all, then I'm more than happy to.
Okay, thank you.